percentage. Every vote counts during elections, but a group that's talked about a lot is the black vote. How important is it? Our Tanisha Shaw is breaking down what black voters care about and what makes their vote unique.
They know that they have to kind of go further lengths to try to get and persuade black people to vote for them.
Black American voters in Dane County are speaking out ahead of Election Day.
I'm just excited for someone to get into office and to recognize that they have a specific group of people that need more resources.
I sat down with voters at Be Right Barbershop in Sun Prairie and members of UW's African Student Association. They talked about dozens of issues, like the economy and inflation.
Yeah, you got people trying to manage and budget their money a little bit more nowadays. You know, I used to have clients that get a haircut almost every week. Now you got clients that are trying to get a haircut once a month.
To immigration.
There's no security at the border right now. The border is just a mess. Even though we're all the way up here in Wisconsin, we're seeing a lot of more immigrants and different people coming up into this area.
And affirmative action.
I was accepted through affirmative action. Like, you know, there's still so many barriers to jump through. There's still such a low number of us. There's really not even enough of us here.
Along with the wars on the other side of the world.
It's definitely a big priority, and amongst most of my peers, I would also say it's a great priority to them. But unfortunately, I do feel like many of us feel almost hopeless in a sense that no matter who we vote for, we might not see a distinct change.
Every vote counts in a swing state like battleground Wisconsin. Last presidential cycle, Black Americans accounted for 5% of the vote, having a strong impact on the winner.
The turnout in 2020 in Dane County was 80%.
David Cannon is a retired political science professor from UW-Madison and says those numbers were phenomenal.
90% of black voters voting for Joe Biden and 80% turnout, which was even a little bit higher than Milwaukee County and higher than the statewide average.
Since Milwaukee County has the largest black population, their votes play an important role.
If you go back to the year 2000, all of the elections, except for the two involving Obama, have been decided by 1% of the vote or less. One of the decisive factors in all of those elections is the turnout in Milwaukee County. Because in Milwaukee County, the black vote has traditionally been about 90% Democratic. And so if you get a higher turnout in Milwaukee, you know, that every single percent of the vote is thousands of votes for the Democratic candidate. And so that can be really pivotal.
What makes the black vote around the U.S. unique is a trend.
There is a particular framework that social scientists have talked about called linked fate, where the belief that their interests are aligned with their group interests. So while many other voting blocs think of their own self-interest to vote, many black Americans think about their own livelihoods and their group livelihoods, and that's often linked with their own self-interest. Because the black vote matters a lot more than we are led to believe that it does.
Do you think the candidates are aware of that?
Yes, I do think they are aware of that, and I think often it's being taken for granted.
In August, former President Donald Trump spoke at the National Association of Black Journalists.
I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country.
Donald Trump brought out the young African-American woman to one of his rallies to speak on his behalf. I think she worked at the Chick-fil-A or something like that. Kamala had all of the celebrities come out to her presidential rallies or events that she had.
Harris also spoke to members of NABJ and announced a tour to historically black colleges and universities.
Democratic politicians are expecting for people to vote, black people especially, to vote the Democratic ticket. And kind of absolving themselves from that responsibility to do something different.
Some felt as though this is appropriate.
Which is, I think, great in getting like a younger audience and minority voters, seeing people that look like you endorsing Kamala Harris.
While others disagreed.
I think that it was kind of offensive for her to use black entertainers in that way. I just want them to not only care about black people when it's election time and care about them while they're also in office.
A big factor energizing black voters is representation.
They have never seen what it looks like to be a black woman holding a powerful seat like the president. And that galvanized a lot of people, that people were curious about it.
Using the pain from the past to empower themselves at the polls.
At one point in time, we wasn't able to vote. So to be able to walk into a poll and vote, I think every black person should be proud to do that.
It's important for the black community to remember that if we deem representation to be important to us, then that begins with representation at the polls.
Reporting in Madison, Tanisha Shaw, News 3 Now.